You're welcome to this conversation that we're having today between myself, Jenny Pelling, the Director of Apprenticeship Development and Diversity at Kaplan, and Ross McWilliam from Mindset Pro, with whom we've been working for the last few months. Ross, I'll hand over to you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, how do I add to that, Jenny? Yeah, Mindset Pro. I look at improving performance with individuals or organizations, and that's something that gives me great pleasure, seeing somebody improve and then go on to reach their potential. So that's simply what I try and do throughout my life.
Yeah, and we've been having regular discussions, haven't we, Ross, in preparation for these monthly seminars we've been doing for apprentices, which came about, didn't they, from the lockdown. And we started off by looking at how we could best support our apprentices' mental health and well-being living through the lockdown, and then post-lockdown, didn't we, as people started to adjust going back into the workplaces. And it's evolved from there, hasn't it? Because it's had a really strong response from our apprentices who've welcomed the opportunity to get some practical guidance from you. Do you want to just talk a little bit about how it's evolved?
Yeah, I think, globally, if you want to look at it in those terms, the use of, webinars, seminars online through cameras has been it's accelerated through COVID. So it became the medium, and that gave us a lot of convenience and a lot of accessibility. So I think we benefited from that. And then obviously the COVID sort of revealed a need in many people that we hadn't seen before, need on different levels. So it was very pertinent to actually get together and provide some sort of process where people can pick up ideas and tips. And again, not for too long, 45 minutes. And then we can share those together, because we like it to be interactive, but we also like it to be the delegates to feed forward to us and tell us what they want for the next one. So it's like a to and fro action. And I think I found it very useful to do that. And as part of my sort of way I operate, I like to transfer knowledge, but I also like to engage people. I like to do something where we can release some dopamine, we can think emotionally about something. And if we're thinking emotionally about something, often that prompts a change in us. So that's why I get excited about the webinars, because it's something different each time, a good number of delegates on board, and we see some positive outcomes.
Absolutely, and that point you make about feeding forward is really on point, because one of the ones we've got coming up in April is around prioritisation and how not prioritising can lead to stress. And that was from one of the apprentices' comments in a previous session we ran. We had that coming up a few times that people wanted that. So we're running that one next in April. And when I look back and reflect on the sessions we've run, there have been some really strong responses to particular topics. I'm thinking of the session we did on confidence and imposter syndrome. That seemed to resonate really well with people. I'm thinking of the best year yet, how to set yourself up for success in the year ahead. And the recent session we did on mental fitness and managing conflict. And I wondered for you, Ross, which ones had stood out the most for you?
Yeah, I go back to your first point, confidence and imposter syndrome. There was, I think, Halle Berry in the paper recently explaining her imposter syndrome. And you get it from time to time, these stars coming out and saying that. So it's quite common for people to feel like they don't deserve what they've got. And again, Helen Mirren was mentioning it recently as well. So I think confidence is at the foundation for any sort of growth. And when I talk about confidence, we talk about, in simple terms, not being scared to say, do, or think things. And that's a very basic analysis of it, but ability to go out there and change your environment without being scared. There's a key word. And then we can layer up on top of that emotional confidence, when to speak, when to keep quiet, when to engage with others, when to help other people. And I think that subtlety and nuance of emotional confidence, when it's linked together with that foundational confidence, becomes very powerful. And I think that's when you start seeing real professionals start to emerge. And I think that's quite apparent in the last session we did with dealing with conflict. Sometimes with conflict, the knee-jerk reaction is to fight fire with fire. Like we call it the chimp paradox. So one says something, you say a bit more, and all of a sudden you've got this sort of polarized view of situation. And I think being able to understand what's happening, untangle our emotions and look for appropriate responses rather than a reaction. And I think that's something we talked about as well. Rather than react initially and quickly, can respond in a more gradual way, taking on board what's actually happening in front of us. So I think, yeah, confidence, I think the nuances around confidence, conflict's a big one. We don't get our emotions involved. Lots of things that I found fascinating, and equally what I find fascinating, what you touched on there, is the feedback from the delegates. That sort of gives me a real impetus to think, oh, that's what really touched a nerve. That's good. Let's keep on that theme.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really relish reading comments where people, the apprentices, are saying to us learners that these personal development seminars are giving people the opportunity just to pause and to think about something else that then will improve performance, but it's giving them the opportunity to really think about their emotions, being brave, being kind to ourselves as well. And your comment earlier about responding, I remember you saying in one of the sessions, it's a think green respond rather than red react. And these phrases are sticking with our apprentices, they tell us. So that's been really powerful, that you're giving practical guidance and techniques to people so that they can flourish really in their careers.
Yeah, there's lots of different things, isn't there? And, we're not trying to bombard people. It's gradual over each month, and it's only 45 minutes. And if you can take 2 or 3 things away, and as you said, reflect, and I'm going to change 1 or 2 things. I often talk about an educationist called Kirkpatrick, and he said there's basically 4 assets to, should I say, facets to training. And he talks about you must have the knowledge, and it must be engaging, and that's sort of up to the trainer. But for the delegates, they've got to make a change, and then they've got to try and measure that change to see if it's effective. So I'm always consciously thinking about those 4 facets, and I think our learners have actually grabbed hold of the second 2, making a change and measuring it, because we're getting that through the feedback now.
We are indeed, and it's really pleasing to see that impact. And I know we still have more to do, that we're going to run further sessions on mental fitness because it is such an important topic. So we've got some sessions coming up, haven't we, on overcoming exam anxiety, on prioritisation, as I mentioned, and then looking at skills to build confidence through networking to advance your career. So there's some really interesting topics that we've got coming up, and we can't wait for you to join us at our next monthly session.